So the good news is your mom, your kindergarten teacher, and everyone on Sesame Street, they were all spot on. We have the power to create whatever future we want to. And with what we have now, I can create the life that I want. I can create the income I want, the career I want. I have that power. I also have that responsibility. I'm responsible for the life that I want to have. Now, most of us have heard this all growing up. We accepted it as truth. As adults, a lot of us have experienced it, right? Maybe I've started my own business. Maybe I've gone after and achieved a promotion or the job that I really wanted. Or if I'm in sales, where I literally create my own income, we see how this is possible. So why then aren't more of us in a place where we're happy, having achieved and created exactly the life that we're going after? Well, problems arise because this is two-sided. If I can create everything that I want moving forward, it means that wherever I am right now today, I'm responsible for creating that as well. And until I'm willing to look at that and really see it, it's going to be very, very hard to try and take responsibility for my future and start building what I want. What most of us do is we carry around this little blankie from childhood and call it little blankie of blame, and we use it to cover up anything that we don't like, anything that hasn't worked for us thus far. So maybe you lost a business in the past. In fact, when I did lose my business, my construction business, I was actively encouraged not to take responsibility for that. I was told it was the economy. That's what caused that business to go under. Blame that. Blame something else, but don't try and take responsibility for it yourself. That's where most of us come from. And if I can't take responsibility for the past, how in the world am I supposed to be empowered to take responsibility for my future there? So that's the first big piece. When I start working with a client who comes to me, and they come to me because they're unhappy with something in their world. They want something to be better or different. First, we've got to start owning it. We've got to take responsibility for where we are right now, and then we can take responsibility for where we want to go. Now, in terms of how to do this, there's many approaches to take. I found the best one is going to be the scientific approach. We learned it in high school. Most of us left it there in the classroom. However, this approach works in all areas of our lives if we just have the guts to actually try it out. So you look at a scientist, right? They're running experiments, maybe going for some big goal, trying to cure a disease, find a more effective way to get batteries to last longer, for solar panels to create more energy, what have you. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? That's one's been going on for years as far as I can tell. So how do we take this approach and start applying it to the rest of our lives? Well, really, it's that scientific method. Step one, we got to ask a question. And keeping everything in a sales world, that question might be, I'm sitting down with a lot of prospects, I'm having good conversations, but I'm not selling anything. My closing ratio is very, very low. So my question might be, how can I improve this? So I have to be really intentional about what I'm looking for. What is it in my life that's not working that I want to change? Now I can start working it intentionally towards making that happen. So I'm not closing like I want to. How can I make that better? I got a question there. Next thing I want to do is start doing some research on it. This is the first place I see most people, especially in sales, trip themselves up. They're not getting the results that they want, so they start either working harder on the thing that we just decided doesn't work very well, is not working, or we try and totally reinvent the wheel and end up frustrated, usually either depressed, we quit the business, it's not working. Well, really, somebody else has probably faced this before us, and they've also gone ahead and figured out a better way to do it. And it really is true that success leaves a trail. So those successful people, when they've really achieved that thing that I'm going after, either they've written it down, they've blogged about it, there's something on YouTube, or someone else has told their story. Either way, the information is out there. So sometimes that's the only step we need, is to start looking at who's come before, put some effort into educating yourself on it, and maybe the answer is just sitting right there. However, if it's still not working, so I've asked a question, how can I improve? Done some background research. Now I'm going to get a hypothesis. And that background research may even feed that hypothesis or that theory. I have an idea after looking at everything of how to make this better. I think that maybe instead of using my 15-minute positioning statement, which I used to use, to open every conversation, maybe I'll open with some effective and real good questions in the beginning and get that prospect more engaged. So now I have a theory. Next step is we got to take it out in the real world and test this thing out. How does it play when I actually use it? Okay, so the testing, this is another tough part, because while people hear great ideas all the time, a lot of us are constantly reading books. Oh, fantastic idea. I think that one would really work. When it comes to actually trying things out, we're real quick to set it aside and fall back to what's comfortable. So you have to be willing when you're trying something new and we're testing something, whether new sales technique, whatever it is that we're testing there, we've got to be ready to see this thing all the way through, even if it means completely going down in flames, which believe me, I've been there, I've done that, but we stick with it. It's the only way to get good data on the back end. So once I've tested my new theory, maybe I'm testing this questions versus positioning statement, I've run the process through. Now, instead of getting emotional about it, instead of checking my gut and saying, how do I feel after this? Do I feel better? Do I feel like it worked? None of that stuff matters. We really just got to look at the cold data and see what's come of it. Did I improve? Are my results better using this method than they were using the old one? And oftentimes it's going to take a number of tries to really start figuring out if it's working or if it's not, so that other variables, such as the person I'm talking to, those can kind of be negated through more volume. So I always want to test it a number of times. But once I run a test on this, now I've got to get my head out of it. I've got to get the emotional piece gone and simply look at what's working or not working. I oftentimes have people tell me, God, I can't do it that way. I'm trying this new approach, but it feels so off. It's so different. It's so uncomfortable. I don't think I can keep doing it. Okay, that's one reason to quit. Or we could look at the results. If the results are there and it's improving, then how you feel about it, if our goal is really to get somewhere, not quite as important. So once I finish, I take that data and I've really got to step back, look at what's happened, look at that data, and now I can decide, is it working? Is it not working, or am I somewhere in the middle, at which point I can take what I've got and ask another question, start right at the beginning again. Okay? So now I'm having clients that are really interested in working with me, but they're not calling me back. Okay? We covered this in a different one. So now I have a new question to ask, and we keep evolving. We keep spiraling upwards, getting better and better, more and more refined at how we're completing this process. Where we're getting stuck starts to get smaller and smaller, and our achievement, where we want to go, gets closer and closer, and it's going to happen a lot faster. So moving forward, responsibility for where I was, that got me to where I am right now, that empowers me to take intentional steps moving forward. I can take responsibility for my future, but the fastest way to get from where you are to where you want to be, that scientific approach. We really got to step back, get the emotion out of it, and look at it realistically of what got me here, playing with new things, testing stuff out, not just taking whatever you read or whatever you pick up in a book and just hoping it works, actually taking out in the real world, testing it, looking at the results, and then modifying until we get something that really works for us. That approach is going to move you forward.